Welcome to another episode of CricChat. Just before we get started, I do want to share something really important with you guys. CricChat is now powered by Diamond Realty, Umar Sheikh. I do want to thank Umar Sheikh for believing in this project and moving cricket forward. Just like Umar Sheikh, we all need to get behind our cricket and move it forward. A lot has happened in recent times. This is why it's important for us to work with Cricket Alberta, Cricket Canada, and move cricket forward. I'm also requesting everyone to remain calm and respectful. Thank you for your understanding. I'm also trying to get Salman Khan on the show so we can hear the other side of the story. Winner of this bat will be announced on May 28th. So if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe or follow our channel so you could win this cricket bat by Kinetic Sports. With that, let's welcome Mr. Shahbaz Sadat to CricChat powered by Diamond Realty. How you first became aware of C&DCL versus Salman and Wajahat?
Well, I think, I've been part of the C&DCL for more than 2 decades now. I started here in 2003. I was in and out in the sense of how much I got myself involved on the day-to-day meetings and operations and things like that, but my club had always been around. So I had always been associated with the C&DCL, and I knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get involved in it directly, but being part of the board, being a board member, as the president of Predators, I was always aware. In 2016, 15, 16, I started getting a little bit more involved in the management of my club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going to the C&DCL meetings and being present. During that period, I started to see some cracks that are already started developing within the organization. There were issues, meetings were rowdy, there was shouting involved. Twice I remember, cops were called.
Wow.
And it's funny now that we think about it, both times the cops showed up right when we were about to present the financials. But then in 2016, when Salman left around the end of that year and he took over Alberta Cricket, I was again in the background as a board member. That's when the season was about to start. The organization was in chaos, and we put together that operating committee. And that was something that Salman put in place.
Okay.
As the president of ACA. He brought in and put together this operating committee to manage the affairs of the C&DCL during that season, because we were so close to the season and we need to get started. So he brought that in. And that operating committee then went back and found whatever they found. So I became aware of what was going on when it was disclosed to the entire board. And that was in mid to late 2017, when the whole thing was revealed to the board. As far as getting involved directly in the matters of what was going on, that didn't happen till a bit later.
Okay.
It was only after the C&DCL ACA rift was created, the separation happened, and the minds of the C&DCL at that time, Sabil, who was the president, other people who were part of the board, Nadeem Altaf was part of it at that time.
As a treasurer?
He was the treasurer. They looked at what was going on, and the solution was to go challenge the ACA as the provincial organization. And that's when they actually came to me and they said, hey, we need to go up and challenge the status of the ACA as a provincial organization because they have excluded such a big portion of the Alberta cricketing community, that how can they be the representatives of the entire community when they are picking and choosing a very small minority to represent. So we put together the ACC at that time, and we went into the arbitration against the ACA, and that whole story started. And that's when I got really directly involved in this. But yeah, that was my starting.
Your starting point.
The starting point in this whole saga.
Okay. I know you kind of talked about this a little bit. The shouting matches during SAGM or AGMs, and they're happening just before the financials are presented. Do you think they were planted, or?
It was one of those things that at that point there was, I think, so much belief in the organization because this kind of thing had never happened before. 100 years plus of C&DCL. Like I said, I had been involved for 20 plus years and we hadn't had any of this. Yeah, we all, there's always questions that are raised, right? Oh, why did we spend a few bucks more here? We could have saved this money and we could have spent it somewhere else. There's always those kind of things. But at this magnitude, there was nothing. So there was nothing that had prepared us to look at it that way. Right. So we were just, for us, it was just like, okay, something's going on. There's like, heat being created. There's friction being created. People are, have started shouting, and then all of a sudden we are still there. And because I had not been involved for 4 or 5 years and I was just getting back into it, for me, it was just trying to figure out what is going on and who's who and what is what. And it was the situation where, I don't know if you were involved in it, but it was like the big four had been created. There was these 4 clubs who all of a sudden, I remember the first time that got revealed to me. We were in a meeting and something got brought up and we were like, no, that can't happen. And when they asked to vote, they said who's in favor, and then only 3, 4 people raised their hand, and who's against, and 7, 8, 9 people have raised their hand as being against. And the answer comes back and says the motion has been approved. And I'm just looking at Alex, I remember from Glenmore, he was sitting next to me, and what just happened?
Alex Story,
yeah. And what just happened? And that's when I found out that apparently these 4 clubs have more votes and a bigger say than the other 8, 9 who are sitting here. So yeah, that situation. So yeah, again, to your question, that why that happened, why those things were happening, I have no idea. Whether they were actually orchestrated or they just happened at the right time. But both times, I know this for a fact, that the police showed up and everybody was shocked to see why the police is there. Once it was Bridgeland Community Center, we had a meeting there. That's when they showed up. And then Vivo in Country Hills, we had a meeting there, and that's when the cops showed up. And both times it was because somebody felt threatened and decided that it was, they needed to call 911 to save them.
Interesting. What were the most challenging aspects of investigation or allegations with Salman and Wajahat, misusing the funds? What was the most challenging part?
I honestly, if you want my personal opinion, again, I don't think there's anything challenging here because the evidence speaks for itself.
Okay.
It is so clear and black and white that every time that evidence has been actually presented to a third party, there has never been an occasion where the other person has said, "Oh, I doubt something like this happened." The first time it was just barely shown to the CPS, it was very clear to them right away. Oh, okay, we know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
When the AGLC saw it, they were like, oh, yeah, we know what's going on here. Same with CPA Alberta. When they saw it, very clear cut. Every time somebody has actually taken a moment to look at the evidence, it's been very, very, very clear. So I don't think there has been a challenge in proving. The challenge has been maneuvering the legal framework. Because the legal framework, fortunately or unfortunately, allows individuals who are facing something like a civil challenge to delay things by layering on multiple other things on top of it that may or may not be relevant. And that's what has been the challenge for the C&DCL. It's every time a new application is brought forth, it derails the process from being directed towards an answer. Now we have to deal with something else on the side, right? But I can tell you that within the civil process, each and every application that has been brought by the other party has been struck down. And each time, C&DCL has been awarded costs related to that application. So it's basic legal maneuvering that has been a challenge, and the realization to us that how difficult these kind of things can be, even though you have clear-cut evidence.
So the loopholes are the biggest enemies for CDCL right now.
The legal loopholes, absolutely. It's just I can give examples of some of the applications that have been brought because it is public knowledge, because these are civil proceedings in court. So it is Sabil's authority to file the case was challenged.
As a president of CDCL.
Even though he was the president of C&DCL, he actually got elected on the 10th of November and he filed the case on the 17th of November. But how can one person file a case? Well, no, he was the president of C&DCL. He has a fiduciary duty towards the C&DCL to ensure that things like these are brought to light. Secondly, he actually was encouraged and given the power by the entire board unanimously at that time to go ahead with the lawsuit.
So there was a board meeting.
There was a board meeting. Some of the people who are today standing with the other party were the most vocal opponents of the same people at those board meetings. There was only, I remember that board meeting where this case was, or the findings were revealed. In that meeting, now this was not an official SAGM. It was a meeting where the operating committee, which was Sabil and Nadeem, along with what we had put together as the bylaw committee, which was Rajesh, I believe, and a couple other guys. They called this meeting and they said that it's not an official meeting. We just want to get all the presidents of all the different clubs together, and we want to tell them or show them actually what we have found. In that meeting, the individual who was the most vocal in terms of, in there was a lot of Punjabi being used in that meeting as well, but the person with the more, I guess, direct comments against these individuals, that we should not let them go. We should make sure that they face consequences. We should do all of those. That individual is today one of their biggest supporters in the city.
Why did the table turns though?
Individuals who are in these sort of positions, fortunately or unfortunately, especially in the cricketing community, the provincial bodies, the national body as well, have become very politicized.
Power hungry.
Power hungry because I sometimes say this, that a lot of them are individuals who've never achieved anything or have not done anything for actual cricket within their jurisdiction, whether that would be at the district level or at the provincial level or at the national level. They just maneuvered their way into positions by making alliances or making deals with the devil.
Mm.
And now they just want to, they love the spotlight. They love the limelight.
Would you disagree if I say we created this beast ourselves in C&DCL?
I don't. I believe that there were ambitions within the C&DCL that definitely put these people in positions that they ended up in. They were propped to these positions. I mean, there were many, many people who had been part of this league for decades, whereas an individual who just showed up 3 or 4 years prior went from a nobody to a secretary to a president to a provincial body president, not on his own. He definitely had the skills to make alliances and to figure out things.
Mm-hmm.
But there were definitely mistakes made on our part.
By trusting too much?
By taking things at face value.
Mm.
And we've learned from that. If you go to any of our recent meetings, you're going to see that everything is questioned. Every decision, every item that is presented is questioned. It's questioned in a professional and friendly manner. We have discussions. Sometimes the discussions get a little heated as well, but we stay within the limits of what is professional in a situation like that. But we've learned, and we were forced to learn very, very quickly not to trust.
Okay. So I've been to a handful of C&DCL meetings and I've had headache after. And some of our viewers who are watching this show today,
Yep.
they probably have this feeling as well. Now that meetings have, maybe the culture has changed a little bit, and you're saying that meetings are more professionals. What would you say to those viewers to join the meeting as a board member?
I honestly, what you mentioned, having a headache, I still walk out of those meetings with a headache. Our meetings take a lot longer than they used to. You know, we used to be able to get an AGM done and over with in 2.5, 3 hours. Now AGMs are spanning days, not just hours. I think our SAGM went on for days. We couldn't finish it in an entire session, so we had to set up another session to take it. But that does not mean that there is animosity. It's the reason is that now the league has grown quite a bit from being controlled by 4 people, like I told you earlier. Now there are 24 clubs who have an equal say in each and every decision. So anything that gets presented, or any opinion or any idea that is presented, is not an idea that certain 4 individuals have decided upon in a Tim Hortons meeting before the meeting. which was the culture back in the day. Now it's hey, the idea is presented and all individual clubs have the right to question that idea. And our I think it comes I don't want to say that it's a curse within our community, but it is something that comes in our community, that we feel that each and every one of us is an expert in each and every subject. And hence we love to question things. But it's actually healthy. It's healthy for the organization. Yes, it may be stressful for some people or most people who are coming in and who are joining it for the first time, looking at this and saying, what is going on? But I do believe that it is healthy. Debate is part of the democratic process, and we need to respect that. So yeah, it is to your point, that what should I tell people who are joining the league for the first time? Come out, be part of the debate, be part of the process. And that is the only way this league is going to continue to improve.
More thought is needed here.
Absolutely. More ideas, more perspectives.
Let's dive back into what we were talking about initially. Yeah. How did C&DCL identify that the contractors hired were potentially fraudulent, or were there specific red flags, or how did they get the approvals in the first place?
So first part of your question, that how did we identify things that this wouldn't look right? I mean, C&DCL has been around for 100+ years, right? A lot of us have been involved in it for decades. We know by heart who are the vendors for the C&DCL. We've known it for years. Every year when you look at the financial statements, you're going to see 2 big expense lines. One is to the city of Calgary for the grounds, and the second one is to Kookaburra for the balls, whoever is supplying the balls. Right? So those are the 2 big expense lines that we should see. In this situation, what had happened was that when Salman moved over to become the president of the ACA, and the operating committee was put in place, Sabil and Nadeem and a couple other guys with them who were supposed to, their task was to run the operations of the league and make sure that we have a season. There was another subcommittee that was put together, which was called the Bylaws Committee, and their task was to fix loopholes and issues within the bylaws and operating rules of the C&DCL. But at the same time, the season is about to get started, and people are coming forward and saying that they have not been paid for the previous season. And now we're talking about the time when Salman and Wajahat was the treasurer and Salman was the president. And these people are coming and saying, specifically, it was the groundsmen, people who had taken care of the grounds during the 2016 season, were saying at the start of the 2017 season that they still were owed money.
Okay.
Same with umpires. Umpires were owed money. And the issue that Sabeel and Nadeem and the operating committee faced was that they didn't have any financial records. So as the treasurer, when Wajahat left, or he stopped being the treasurer, as per normal process, he would have handed over all the financial records, including receipts and whatever is there for the previous, like from the previous years, and he would have handed off to the new person who's taking over. But that hadn't happened. So the C&DCL, or the operating committee of the C&DCL, had no idea or no way of justifying these claims. So they didn't know whether they were actually paid or were they not paid.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the only thing that they could do was, well, they had access to the bank accounts. They had been given access to the bank accounts, and Salman had given them access to the bank accounts because he was a previous president. So he had transferred access of the bank accounts over to the new individuals. So all they could do was get the bank statements and try to see who's been paid, what expenses have been paid, and was there
still owing.
Yeah, so what was there a check ever written to? So if XYZ is coming to you and saying, I'm owed money for this service that I provided to the C&DCL, you look in the bank statements to see if a check has been given to that individual. Because with the bank statements that you get, you have the statement and then you have copies of the checks. Like you have actual physical copies of the checks on the bottom, right? So you can see who's been paid. So when they looked at that, well, they weren't seeing payments to the vendors that they expected, but they were seeing payments to vendors that they did not recognize. And not small payments. We're talking about tens of thousands at any given time being paid to these companies that nobody could recognize. The first step was, well, let's ask the people who wrote these checks, like, what are these payments for? But they weren't getting any responses from that side. The next thing they could do was Google it.
So-and-so company.
Yeah. Here's a name of a company. Well, let me look and see, and
who are they?
What do they do, and where are they? So I can actually talk to somebody over there to see, hey, what did you get paid for? But Googling these companies had no results. They didn't have an office. They didn't exist on Google. There was no history.
Even registered.
They were registered because they were corporations, right? But because they had to be registered to have a bank account where the check could have been deposited. So they couldn't find anything. The only thing they could think of was, well, let's go to the registry and ask, hey, I have the X, because again, registration of a corporation is public record. If I know that there's a company called XYZ Inc., I can walk into any registry, pay $30 or $25, whatever the registry fee is, and say, can you please give me a copy of the registration documents of this company? So that's what they did. They made a list of the companies that had been paid these big amounts.
And that's the operating
committee. Yeah. Not the operating committee, actually, the bylaw committee, because the operating committee was busy running the season. So they had asked the bylaw committee to look at this piece, right? So they went to the registries, paid the $20-$30 and got the registration documents of those. And that's when they saw the pattern, that all of these companies are registered to individuals who are also the, you can say, the executives of Falcon Sports Society.
And who belongs to that company?
Salman was the main person who on Falcon Sports Society.
He was the director, eh?
He was one of the executives, because Falcon Sports Society was set up, I don't know whether the word is executive here or director, but it was set up as a non-for-profit. So just like, C&DCL has, a few directors on it, or signing authorities, it was set up as a non-for-profit. When you set up a non-for-profit, you need, I believe in Alberta, you need 4 people to sign off on the setting up. No, for a non-for-profit, you need 4. 3 or 4.
I think it's 2, because I've looked into it recently.
Okay, so yeah, whatever, but this had about 4 people or something like that on Falcon Sports Society. There was Salman, there was his wife was one of them, his friend, and a couple of his close friends were the 4 people who formed Falcon Sports Society, and these were also the individual who were the owners of these for-profit entities as well, which we refer to now as the shell companies where the money went. They were the same 4 individuals, or 4 or 5 individuals, that were the beneficiaries of those payments.
Wow. Interesting.
So yeah, the last part of your question, how did these vendors get approved? They didn't. The simple answer is there was never an approval.
So there's no.
It never came to the board. There was never the only 2 people who would have known about these payments would be the 2 people who would have signed those checks.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't think the board ever was told that, hey, we're going to hire XYZ contractor and we're going to pay $30,000 for repairs on Riley nets. And the condition of Riley nets. We've all been there. So yeah, that never came to the board. So there was never a formal process of approving these vendors.
I know you kind of touched on this, but my next question actually dives into the evidence. So what evidence proved the most crucial in establishing the financial misconduct claims?
I think the evidence as a whole is what drives the case. As far as the evidence is concerned, there are multiple different pieces of evidence. There's few that are very, very clear cut. I can give you a simple example of some of the evidence that we have seen. Riley Park Clubhouse, which has been now, sealed off for a while. During the period, there was a furnace installed in that clubhouse. And on that furnace was a sticker with the name of the company that actually installed that furnace, GBC or GB something like that. So GB Contracting, or what, again, the name is like I'm missing part of that name right now, but we contacted them and we asked them for invoices related to the installation of that furnace, and they came to be just over $5,000. I think about $5,600 is the number.
At that time?
At that time, yeah. They provided us with copies of the invoices. They said, yes, we installed the furnace, and here is the invoice that says Calgary C&DCL and this much. And when you look at those checks that I was talking about from the bank statement earlier, C&DCL paid close to $15,000 for that furnace.
So something that costs $5,600, we paid
close to $15,000. Again, the exact number is 14 something, something, something. But that is clear cut misappropriation.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several such examples. A person being paid tens of thousands for cricket programs.
For what? What kind of cricket program? Junior program?
Nobody knows. All it says is cricket programs. The person who was paid for those cricket programs or whose company got the money for those cricket programs never played cricket in the C&DCL that I can think of. Nobody in the C&DCL has ever seen that person on the ground even. He is a friend of Salman and he did get that payment. Now, what programs did he deliver? We don't know. But as far as we know, we have never seen a program being delivered by that individual.
So the program was not delivered, but the payment was made.
Yep.
And that was tens of thousands, you said?
Yeah. I believe, again, I don't have, it's been so
That's
long
fine.
since I looked at that whole, so the operating committee had, the subcommittee had actually put together a full Excel spreadsheet of all of these payments and which company got how much money. And for example, the biggest one in this was a company owned by Salman's wife. Then that company got almost $167,000 in a period of 3 years, something around that. And then there were other companies with lower amounts. Another company, which was a construction company, again, beneficiary was Salman, got tens of thousands of dollars. On the same day, I remember this date, I may be off by a day or so, but February 22nd, 2016, before the season started, two separate companies, one a construction company, another, both actually construction related companies, got paid $30,000 each.
Was that for the pitch?
All it says is Riley Park. One says Riley Park Nets, one says Riley Park. $30,000 in February to each, $60,000 in total payment related to Riley Park. For $60,000, we would have reconstructed that clubhouse and put 3 nets there. So, yeah, those were the red flags.
Big ones.
Big ones. Yeah. And like I said, I said it at the start that for anybody who's actually taken the time and said, show me the evidence, we have never shied away from that.
Now, I know some may have already told you this during this process. And I, at one point, also thought of this. Like, come on, we're never going to get anywhere with this, right? Why are we doing this? Chodo Shahbaz bhai, let's move on. It happened. What? Now what?
That I honestly think that attitude comes from a lot of individuals who don't think that it was their money. If it came out of the pocket, directly out of the pockets of those individuals, they would say, I'm going to go to the end of the earth and make sure that, even if I don't see a dime, I want to see justice.
Exactly.
Right?
This is our money, our future generations.
Exactly. And that is where I come from. Like, if you look at my involvement, I have not been part of the C&DCL executives ever. I've never ran in the elections. I have no aspirations of running in the C&DCL elections or the Alberta elections or Cricket Canada. I want to stay as far away from that as possible. Sabil is a great friend of mine. He's done a great service to this organization in the last 7-8 years. And I always say to him, man, like, this is the most thankless thing in the world if you genuinely do it. Unless you're getting, money on the side, it is a volunteer position. Everybody's blaming you for everything that goes wrong in the world. And you're putting in hours and days and months into this league. But why do we do it? We do it for the love of the sport. We want to see the success of our kids. My own children have nothing to do with cricket. My son has never played cricket. He doesn't want to play cricket. But so I'm not doing it so I can get my kids into the provincial team or I can get my kids into the national team. I don't do it because I want to get my photo taken or I want people to come and say hi to me, because Alhamdulillah, there's enough of that already in this city. There's hundreds of people who know me, hundreds of people who respect me. I don't have to buy their respect. I don't have to manipulate respect out of them. So I don't need that. I do it because when I got involved in that time that I told you about, when C&DCL was excluded from, and our players were being excluded from participating in the provincial team or the national team or the city team, I got involved to secure the future of those players. And that is what the fight is all about. It is not a lot of people who have been around for a long time know this, but that money, we used to operate on a very tight budget, right? So, I mean, you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to move around, right? So a big chunk of that money came from a GIC that C&DCL had put together over years. That money was, we were putting money aside slowly but surely. We were putting money aside, and that money was put together to be able to put a turf pitch and to build a proper cricketing facility in this city. That was the goal of that money. And who was that for? That was for our future generations. Exactly. That was so that our kids who grow up playing cricket in this city get to experience that, so that when they go and perform at the next level, they have some familiarity with these things, conditions. So that's what the fight is about. So it's not, I think it's beyond just the money now.
Right. And one question I did have here is, C&DCL a recognized league at the national level or provincial level?
The recognition of the C&DCL, honestly, to me, there's never been a doubt that C&DCL is a recognized organization. C&DCL is the founding member of Alberta Cricket. It was C&DCL and E&DCL together that formed Alberta Cricket. And it was Alberta Cricket and everybody else together with the backing of the C&DCL that put together Cricket Canada, or the Canadian Cricket Organization. So being a founding member, you cannot take C&DCL out. Although they've tried not just to take us out, but to systematically destroy the C&DCL. That has been a collective effort over the last 7 years of everybody at the provincial level and at the national level. But They haven't killed C&DCL. We are stronger. We're bigger. We're better. We have, we touched on that during the meeting, that we've now crossed over $500,000 of annual budget. So we are way better. The whole recognition issue was, hey, C&DCL is not in good standing. It's not that like our membership goes poof up in the air.
Okay.
Because that's under the bylaws of the ACA, the bylaws at that time, they could not do that. You cannot just say you're not alone, you being the biggest part of this organization, we're just cutting you off. It doesn't work that way. Without due process, without proper a meeting where C&DCL is actually represented, where they put together a case for it. The only thing that can happen is that, oh yeah, the person ACA was under at that time knew very well what sort of financial condition the C&DCL was in 2017 and 18. So if I know that, hey, I have taken every cent that you had in your pocket, and then I put an invoice in your face and say, you owe me $80,000. I know damn well you're not going to be able to pay that.
Yeah.
Right? So the only thing I can do at that time is I can put you not in good standing. You are financially not in good standing with the provincial organization.
Which is why the players cannot be selected for provincial or national level?
That was the whole excuse. But as of last year, C&DCL wrote a check for $76,000 to the ACA and an additional $5,000 to Cricket Canada. So we paid our debt in full. It took us a few years to get to that point that we were financially strong enough or stable enough that we could write that check, give it to them, and not think twice about it. Mm-hmm. And we did that.
So does that make C&DCL in good standing now?
According to every rule and every law, that's how it works.
But why are the players leaving for other leagues? Why are they still not being recognized?
That's politics. It has nothing to do with the actual organization or the standing of the C&DCL. It is because the people in ACA are too scared to let the C&DCL back in. They know our strengths. They know our numbers. We're not faking our numbers. They know the quality of cricket that C&DCL brought, not just at the provincial level, but at the national level. Mm-hmm. So they're too scared to let us back in. So they close their eyes and bide their time. But it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. They cannot get away with it for an unlimited amount of time. And also, for the players who are leaving, and when it comes to the question of players going and playing in the other league, this is not the first league that has popped up in competition of the C&DCL. There was the IPL first. Look, where are they now? There was the CCCS, then a CCCB, and then this,
WCL?
WCL, all of them at some point claimed to be recognized provincial body, recognized league. We are the one with the high performance, and we are the ones with this, and we are the ones with that. Look at where they are now.
So WCL now claims that they are recognized at the provincial and
they
national
are.
level.
I mean, they must be. The thing is that the people at the provincial level want people that they can control. They do not want. So WCL is an affiliate member. That's what they're called, an affiliate member of the ACA, which means that they are given the stamp of approval without being given any real rights. They don't have the right to vote. They don't have the right to speak up in ACA meetings. That is not what we want.
So WCL is puppet.
It is. It's basically an organization that has been given, oh yeah, we're going to give you this, but like, look, for the players, it's fine. You want to go play? I've run a club for 22 years now.
Since 2003.
I have never begged a player to pay or to come and be part of my club. I've asked them. I have shown them what my club offers, but I've paid them. If you are a good player and you deserve to be paid, then absolutely you deserve to be paid for your service to the club or the team. I believe that. But I would not beg a player to be part of my club. So in the same way, we're not going to beg players to be part of the C&DCL. If they want to go and they want to see the other side, they can. They can see the quality of the facilities. They can see the operational quality, the professionalism of the league, and then they can compare it to where they came from. And if they feel that they are better suited to be part of that system, then they are more than welcome to remain part of that system as well. But that doesn't mean, if they think that that system is going to get them into the provincial teams, into the national teams, if look at the history of the last 7 years of Alberta. How many players have made it into the national team?
Currently 0.
So with all of the political capital that C&DCL has today within Cricket Canada, everybody talks about it. Oh, Alberta is running Cricket Canada. Oh, Alberta is, the big dog in Cricket Canada today. Where are the results? Because what they have done is they have gained political capital at the expense of quality within the province. The quality of cricket in this province has suffered. Good players are leaving the province. They're not joining the other league. They are leaving the province. They're going not just to other cities, but other countries to play.
अच्छा, मुझे आप ये बात बताएं शहबाज भाई, CDCL इतनी दूध से धुली हुई तो नहीं है. Like, I'm going to ask
Absolutely
you
not.
one heart-to-heart question.
Yeah.
CDCL has stopped players to play IPL and CCC and other leagues in the past. Now, same thing is happening to us, CDCL. technically, right? If they join WCL, they can't really play C&DCL. So aren't we getting the same medicine?
Here's the thing. The rule about, players playing in other leagues within the city, not being able to participate in the C&DCL, there was logic behind that rule when that rule was put in place.
Okay.
That rule is not new. That didn't come in with Sabil or with the change in change of guard within the C&DCL. It has been around for a long time. It actually came in right after IPL came.
Okay.
Right? The reason for that rule was in the city of Calgary, what is the most precious thing when it comes to the propagation or the growth of cricket? Players and resources. It is grounds. It is facilities. That is the most scarce thing. We have seen players grow, but what has not kept up with it has been the resources. How many grounds do we have in the city? That has not been proportionate to the number of players that have come. So that rule was put in place to protect the resources. Because when you go to the city of Calgary at the end of every year, or back then, whenever you went to the city of Calgary and asked for grounds for your league, the question was, how many players do you have?
Okay.
Right? So if I have a club and, for example, I have Predators and I've got 11 guys in Predators who play in the C&DCL. So when the C&DCL is going to the city of Calgary, they're going to use the names of those 11 players and that number of 11 to ask for facilities so that those players have somewhere to play. Now, if every other league is using the same group of individuals, then would the city or nobody has any way of justifying that why should you get 2 grounds and that they should get 1 ground. Right?
So the city is forcing.
So there wasn't, I wouldn't say forcing, but there was, you can say, an unwritten rule in the city of Calgary's books that said individuals who are part of one should not be showing up in every other league as well. And for that reason, that rule was put in place that if you are part of the C&DCL, you can't participate in other leagues within the city of Calgary. You can play in Edmonton, you can play in Medicine Hat if you want to, you can play in Fort Mac, you can play in Grand Prairie. Same with players from those associations. They can come here, they can play, right? As long as you are not competing for the resources of the C&DCL, we don't have a problem with that. And that is exactly why, as soon as the question of WCL came up this season, the C&DCL's response to that was, yeah, we don't have any problems with players who are playing in the WCL to come and play in the C&DCL as guest players, because they're not competing for the same resources as we are. So that was the reason behind it. Now, logically, whether we should have, I guess, stuck with it for so long and whether that rule needs to be abolished.
Your Siri is going.
Yeah.
Hey, Siri, shut up.
She listened. My personal opinion in that, yes, we should have abolished that rule years ago. But fortunately or unfortunately, the C&DCL is a democratic organization. It is not my opinion that matters, or it is not, Sabil's opinion that matters, or Hamza Tariq's opinion that matters, or anybody else's opinion that matters. It is the opinion of the majority of the voting members. And this has been brought up and it has been discussed, but we haven't found, I think, a good enough way to repeal that rule without negatively impacting other areas of our organization. I think it'll be easier for us in the coming years because we have what has happened in the last 2 years is that the city of Calgary has updated their rules regarding the allocation of grounds. And with those updates, it has put the C&DCL in a lot more secure of a position when it comes to protecting our resources. And with that, we have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to modifying, repealing, or changing the rules around this.
Okay, so you said protecting the resources. So what I'm hearing is the current resources. What about the new resources?
The new resources have come with the growth of the C&DCL and has been organic. We got East Shepherd last year, was a new ground, and that was based on the number of new teams that had joined the C&DCL last year. This year, we're working with the city of Calgary on another ground, which we were hoping that it would be ready to go at the start of the season. But the problem with grounds is that we cannot start any work until spring or summer, because otherwise there's snow in Calgary. So all the physical work, we can talk to the city as much as we want, we can negotiate as much as we want, but we physically cannot start any work on the ground until the snow melts and the ground dries up, because you can't take and move any machinery onto the ground until the ground dries up. You can't do any digging, you can't do any leveling, you can't do anything until the ground's dry. So that's why it always goes into the next season, but we are working on another ground. The C&DCL has, you can say, an understanding with the city of Calgary about two options, and those are being explored right now, and they're going through the due diligence process to see which one is a better option. Because we are a recognized organization, we are also making sure that we involve the communities where we are going to be going in to play cricket, to ensure that the communities are on the same page, because we have faced those things in the past, right? Where a cricket ground popped up, but then the community rallied against it. You've seen Cornerstone, what happened in Cornerstone, right?
Meaningful consultation is very important.
Absolutely. So those processes and those things take time.
Yes.
If you want to do it right.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about East Shepherd. I remember back in 2008 when I was the secretary of C&DCL, I attended a meeting in Red Deer. Chris James was the president of Cricket Alberta at the time. I've been hearing about East Shepherd. It was the biggest part of the meeting at that meeting that, we're coming up with this new ground back in 2008, and we just got it.
I honestly can't comment on that because I was out of the country in 2008, so I wasn't there. But I also between 2008 and 2015, 16, like I said, I wasn't involved, so I have no idea. I started getting involved in, helping out with the ground situations or talking to the city and going to the city meetings in 2017, 18 is when I started, going to these meetings with Sabil, and we started the actual process of trying to get new grounds for the C&DCL. What happened during that time? Yeah, we did get new grounds, and between 2008 and 2017, but we lost a few as well. We couldn't play. We had to stop playing at Riley Small. Then we had to stop playing at Inland Small. Then we had to stop using Forest Lawn. So we lost. So the new grounds really, it just got offset with the losses on the other side. Then when the CCCS came about, we agreed to give Martha.
Idiot.
And we said, okay, we'll share Martha with you. Martha went to them. Um, but those grounds are, both Martha and Martindale right now are severely underutilized.
So that's where my question lies, right? Like, okay, fine, city is saying, or with the new rules, it might change or enhance some of the policies, but what are the chances if it's actually going to happen for the players?
The players,
resources, would they actually increase, or are we still going to struggle?
No, the resources will increase. We have a good relationship with the city of Calgary now. We have worked very, very hard in the last 6-7 years to build a relationship based on trust, where when we say, for example, when the C&DCL goes to the city of Calgary and says we have 1,000 plus members, the city of Calgary actually believes it. They don't question it because they know that we are not the ones who are going to come in and exaggerate our numbers. Oh, we have this many teams. Oh, we have that. We're actually saying no to teams every year because of the constraint on the resources, and that's what the city knows.
Yeah.
So the city believes us. We have a good relationship with them. It's just that these processes within the city of Calgary, everybody knows about administrative red tape within the city or at the provincial level and everything, so those things take time. It's not as easy as I'm going to put a slab of cement in my backyard, stick on a carpet, and let's go.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Now I'm going to dive back into the main reason for this episode. Were there any unexpected discoveries or twists during the investigation?
When you say the term investigation, there are two different types of investigations here, right? One is the criminal side of things, which the C&DCL has no control or say in. I wanted to make that clear to everybody, that when it comes to the criminal investigation, it is the responsibility of the government of Canada to bring criminals to justice. Not
Crown's responsibility?
the Crown. It is the responsibility of the prosecutor who is on the government's payroll. It is the responsibility of the Calgary Police Service, because those laws are there against fraud, against embezzlement, against theft. And those laws are enforced by the government. All we did in this matter was to make a complaint with the city of Calgary. And that complaint happened in 2017. Okay. August of 2017. The C&DCL's operating committee, led by Sabeel at that time, went to the Calgary Police Service and filed a complaint. And that they did because it was their duty. It was their fiduciary duty to ensure that if they found misappropriation, or they felt that there was any misappropriation, they let the authorities know.
So that's back in 2017.
2017, August. Since then, as far as the investigation is concerned, it was initially with the city of Calgary. Oh, sorry, not the city of Calgary. It was initially with the Calgary Police Service. Okay. They handed it off to the AGLC. The AGLC did their own investigation. the AGLC handed it back to the city of the Calgary Police Service. And that was because of, not because the AGLC failed or they couldn't, it was the AGLC's prosecutor who, after looking at the evidence, thought that, you know what, it carries more weight if it comes from the Calgary police and the Crown prosecutor rather than the AGLC prosecutor. Okay. And that's why they handed it back.
And AGLC is a provincial body?
The Alberta Gaming and Liquor and Cannabis now. They used to be called Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission. Now it's called Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis. And they got involved because I don't think that's a secret. C&DCL used to get money from the AGLC every 2 years, the casino money that used to come in, and that. So because that money came in with certain stipulations as well, and where you can spend it and how it could be spent, the Calgary police at first felt that those rules were violated as well when this money went to other places. So they put it to the AGLC. The AGLC did their investigation. They found everything, whatever they found, that's up to them. But they found enough that they took it to their prosecutor, and the prosecutor reviewed it, and they said, well, I think it carries more weight, so we're going to give it to the Calgary police. So you have to understand that a criminal process it's not based on what I said. I know there was a rumor going around a few months ago that said, charges are being laid because somebody in the C&DCL gave an affidavit to the Calgary police saying that go ahead and charge this guy. I mean, I come from Pakistan. It may have worked there. It doesn't work here. I cannot go to this Calgary police and say, you know what, why don't you just arrest this guy? Don't worry about it. Leave it to me to prove it for you in the end. Yeah. You know, it's funny that people actually believe these things. Yeah. And I was actually asked by somebody, who gave that affidavit? And this was my response. I said, if that's how the Calgary police work, I have a long list of people that I want behind bars, man. Right? So it was funny that people brought that up, but that's not how it works.
Because they probably saw your name on one of the legal documents and just thought like that's what just happened.
And it's the same thing like in the CPA investigation, in which there was
misconduct.
There was problems found. And it's a public document. Anybody can search it. It wasn't because of me. Yes, I filed a complaint on behalf of the C&DCL. I told them what I thought had happened, but they had their own investigative team that looked into everything, that gathered the evidence, that brought the accusations forward, took it to their tribunal. They didn't go with what I told them.
So CPA did what they needed to do for investigation for Vajad.
Yeah. They did their own investigation.
So it wasn't you.
I told them what I thought.
Right,
I said, okay, there's something going on and this is what I see, and can you guys look into it? And they said, yeah, it looks like, there's something. So let us look into it in more detail. It is a professional body. It doesn't go on what I say. They do their own investigation before they're going to point a finger at a member of their own professional body. They're going to do their due diligence.
Yeah.
And they did that, and then they brought that to the tribunal and in front of the tribunal. And before it actually was heard in the tribunal, a deal happened where he pled guilty to a couple of the accusations that were brought forward by the investigation team of the CPA, and whatever deal, and like I said, it's a public document. Anybody can go in and download it and look at it, what deal was struck and what he pled guilty to and whatnot. But again, it was not because I said so or Sabir said so. So say same thing with the Calgary police as well. Even after the case came back from the AGLC and was assigned back to an investigator at the Calgary police, he did not even take the AGLC's word for it. He did his own investigation from the start. And that is why it took so long, because he started from scratch. He wasn't going to take our word for it. He wasn't going to take the AGLC's word for it. He went and got all the evidence directly from the financial institutions, from the banks. He subpoenaed witnesses. He brought in people for questioning. He did all of those things, and he got to a point where he thought there was enough evidence. And then he took it to the Crown prosecutor. The Crown prosecutor spent months reviewing that evidence and then decided that they were going to go ahead with charges. And only then were the charges brought forward. It's not because of what I said or what Sabir said, or not even what the accused say. They're going to have their day in court. They can say whatever they want in court. But all of that, the whole statement on ACA's Facebook page that came out, right after the charges, like the were publicly became known, that entire statement has been proven false. Because you've read that statement. It's publicly available. Everybody's
I'll add it for the viewers.
Yeah, it's publicly available. The biggest thing in that statement is could not be in Calgary because of Ramadan. Could not travel to Calgary because of Ramadan.
Yeah, I've asked the officer, can we reschedule it? But he said no, or something along those lines, right?
Because of Ramadan, my religious reasons, I can't travel. I mean, we all travel in Ramadan, but some people can't travel in Ramadan. That's fine. But, I asked them to reschedule because it was Ramadan. Well, the paper is there. Salman was charged in person in Calgary on February 6th. He signed an undertaking in the presence of the police officer.
In Calgary.
In Calgary.
During Ramadan.
Ramadan didn't start till end of February. Before Ramadan.
Okay. Feb 29th. Yeah. March 1st was Ramadan. Sorry, I'm mistaken.
So more than 3 weeks before Ramadan, he was in Calgary, because that undertaking that he signed is a public document. If nobody wants to take the C&DCL's word for it, go down to the courthouse, go to the CMO office of the courthouse and quote the case number. And if you want, I'll give you the case number. You can put it. You'll add it and quote that case number and say, I want the documents related to their case number. The only question they're going to ask you is your name, your address, because they need to put on record who got the copy. And they're going to say, $30, please. You pay them the $30, you can get a copy of that undertaking yourself. And that undertaking was signed on February the 6th. Wajahat signed his undertaking in Calgary on February the 27th.
Okay.
Both of them were in Calgary, charged in the presence of the police officers before Ramadan even started.
So what's preventing something like this to happen again for C&DCL? What kind of checks and balances have you or the team has put in?
I think we've touched on it. First of all, we have ensured that the there is no concentration of power. And that is one of the biggest things that I believe ensures that no one person or two person people can get away with it anymore. The second thing, we've brought about a lot more transparency. Like I said, a lot of questions are being asked, and those questions are being answered by the executives. The third thing, now that we discussed it at the SAGM this year, that because the C&DCL has crossed that $500,000 of revenue a year mark, we are going to bring about a third-party auditor and ensure that our audit as a non-for-profit is, according to our bylaws, it was being done by people appointed within the C&DCL.
Volunteer position.
Volunteers who would audit the C&DCL's financials. But we are going back to a professional organization, a known independent, known organization. We're not going to ABC accountants because we've suffered that as well. So we're going to make sure that it is a known, recognized financial organization that audits the C&DCL every year.
Biryani or karai?
Oh, karai. Yeah, I because of my gluten allergies, I had to move to rice. Right.
If you had to choose between having a perfect memory or perfect reasoning in your work, which one would you pick?
See, in my line of work, I am a business consultant. I think reasoning makes a lot more impact than memory, because records I can keep.
Is your wife gonna watch the show maybe at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Celebrity crush?
Ooh. Oh, man. I'm not a big movie or TV guy. Okay. I'm one of those people. I think back in the day, who was it? Like there was, Sarah Michelle Gellar because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I wasn't born then.
I'm sure you weren't. That was a long time ago. And then my wife would probably know this answer better than I could. She can probably, oh yeah, that time you like that, and that time you but it's never been like, oh yeah, this is it.
Okay, last question. Salman or Shah Rukh?
Oh man, none. I don't know. Like I don't feel motivated by either one of them. Especially, I think the name has been bastardized within this community so much that, we have to stay away from it as much as possible.
With that, we just want to thank you for watching the show. I know we are ending this on a lighter note, but the journey is not over. I have invited Mr. Salman Khan to the show, and we will soon also invite Mr. Bajaj as well, and they can share their comments on the show. Stay tuned. Thank you for your support for CricChat. This community is only going to get bigger, so thank you. And we do want to thank our guest, Shahbaz Bhai, for coming on the show. It takes balls to be on the show and talk about something like this, so thank you.